Welcome, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining. It's great to see participants starting to sign in. I know some people are still going to be signing on in the next minutes, but I will go ahead and start as we have a pretty tight schedule for today, and I want to hand it over as soon as possible to our main speakers. So I'm Alyssa Boyer. I'm the Chief of Party of USAID's WashFin program. WashFin is a 6-year program designed to close the financing gaps in the water and sanitation sector globally. We and USAID are hosting this webinar today that we have entitled An Unlikely Pair, Commercial Finance Partnerships for Water and Sanitation, with the objective of highlighting a sample of the successes and the challenges that come with them of our experience in supporting the mobilization of commercial finance, specifically for water and sanitation. So we have a great lineup of service providers, financial institutions, and sector stakeholders who will share highlights of their experience, and we will introduce them at the beginning of each panel. I'd also like to mention that the experiences highlighted today are discussed in greater detail in a paper that we just published on USAID's Global Waters website. The paper is entitled Accessing Commercial Finance for Water and Sanitation Service Providers in Kenya, Cambodia, and Senegal. And I'll drop the link to this paper in the chat in just a minute so that everyone can see that. So perhaps to quickly review the program of the webinar and some housekeeping logistics, the webinar will run for 2 hours, and we'll start with some remarks from Ella Lazarte from USAID, and then go to a brief audience poll to help us understand you, our audience. From there, we will start the first panel discussion with private service providers and financial institutions from Cambodia and Senegal. And we will then transition directly to the second panel with a public service provider, a financial institution, and a sector authority from Kenya and Zambia. Then we will have about 30 minutes for Q&A for panelists from both of those panels. And we hope our Cambodia and other Asia-based participants can hold on that long, as we know it will be getting quite late for you guys by then. And then we'll wrap up from there. So the poll that I mentioned will appear shortly, if it's not there already, in the Q&A icon to the right of your screens. This is also where we would like for you to put your questions for the Q&A segment. So actually, I think the poll is right above the Q&A, sorry, and the Q&A box right below that is where we want you, audience members, to type in your questions, and you can start typing them in at any point. We won't have speech enabled for audience members, so I will be monitoring the Q&A box, and I will select questions there for the panelists to answer in that segment. The chat box, which is located above the Q&A, can be used for more general discussion throughout the webinar, but please don't put your questions there because I won't be monitoring that one as closely. We will have limited translation provided for one of our speakers who will provide her responses in French, which will be translated to English for the audience. And we apologize that we won't have the full webinar available live in other languages. However, for anyone who would feel more comfortable writing their questions in French, Spanish, or Portuguese, please feel free to just write them in those languages, and we can do some on the fly translation of those as we pass them to the panelists. So we have a lot to cover today with a lot of speakers, and I will be trying to keep careful track of our time. This means that I might need to ask some speakers to wrap up quickly to try to keep us on schedule. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone again for joining, to thank our speakers in advance for sharing their experiences. And I'll pass it over now to Ella Lazarte, Senior Water and Sanitation Advisor at USAID, to provide some more context for our discussion. Ella, over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Alyssa. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon or good evening. It's actually good evening where I'm from. Right now, I'm calling in from India. Namaste from India. I'm here for work for a couple weeks, and but it's really nice to join this webinar, and it's especially nice to see all of you here participating in our discussion. We hope that this is the first of many discussions that we will have as we wrap up the WashFin program that Alyssa mentioned and start a new one called WashFin 2. And I'd like to have at least one webinar or some discussion with the audience, with with you as stakeholders every few months so that we can share ideas. You can learn about what we're doing. We can learn about what you're doing. And so that I promise that we would do on our end because it's incredibly important that we work together in this space. And what we present here today, what you'll hear about, is just a sliver, but important piece of the work we've been doing at USAID, not just under the WashFin program, but also within all the different bilateral missions that we have. And so do stay tuned for other opportunities to interact with us in the WASH financing space. And I'd be remiss to actually not mention the WashFin team for all the great work they've been doing the past 6 years implementing the WashFin program. Alyssa and Barbara and Steve at the helm of it, and all the staff and consultants that have worked with us, and the partners, Segura, Capital, Global Credit Rating, and all of the different partners on the ground. And I really do just want to thank you for that. And for our distinguished panelists, I'm not the star of the show today. It's really the panelists that we have put together for you. And so just bear with me and give me a few moments to just share a little bit of an overview of the work that we're doing. Can you put on the slides, please? Next slide, please. I love numbers, and so don't be shy, don't be scared, and don't think that that's all we think about in terms of context. But I just thought it would be neat to actually show you a little bit of why we're doing what we're doing. All of you in this audience probably know that it's 2 billion people that lack safely managed drinking water services. It's 3.6 billion on the sanitation side, $263 billion needed in terms of reaching the SDGs. So that's a big financing gap. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, 5% of the GDP of the countries we work with are actually is needed to achieve the SDGs. And a lot of countries right now are investing about 0.5, 1% to 2%. So more is needed in that aspect. And 9% of the source of funds in the sector are coming from repayable finance, which is what we're going to talk about today. So there's a lot of opportunity there for growth in terms of tapping into that source. And lastly, I really like this data because it really shows the complexity and the difficulty in our sector in terms of thinking about commercial finance. How do we get there, given that only about 15% of utilities globally are considered financially viable? That's borrowing from a World Bank analysis from a few years ago, in about 600, 700 utilities that they looked at. And there are many more challenges that are there, but I did just want to present these numbers to you because I'm a numbers person. Next slide, please. And so with these challenges, what exactly is USAID doing? So our focus at USAID is really on systems level change to achieve impact. We're doing three things. The first one is maximizing value from existing funding and mobilizing additional funds from government, from domestic public resources and user fees. And that would be tariffs that households pay, the user payments for the services. It's really important to do that. It's not just about getting the private sector to come in or getting commercial finance. So that's key for us. The second one is really addressing governance at both sector and utility level. You'll hear more about that today, looking at the enabling environment issues to help improve performance in the sector and really unlock investments, both public and private. And the third thing that we're doing in our approach is to mobilize private finance. But I must say that it's really hard to get to number 3 and mobilize private finance without doing number 2 or even number 1 that you'll see here on the screen. And so for us, these 3 approaches are very important, and you'll see that more in the Financing Water and Sanitation Services technical brief. There's a link to it. We will provide this presentation at the end. It's on global waters. And also just to say that we're using this approach to actually help us mobilize at least $1 billion in public and private finance for climate resilient water and sanitation services. And that's part of USAID's COP26 deliverable under the President's Emergency Plan for Adaptation and Resilience. So while we're not talking necessarily about climate resilient water and sanitation services now, because we're looking back at what we've done in the Watchman program, I do want to say that moving forward, that's going to be a big focus for us. Next slide, please. So just to give you a little bit of flavor of what we've done in the Watchman program, which is a 6-year technical advisory program for USAID. It's our global flagship program focused on governance and finance. We've mobilized almost $120 million. As I showed you in the first slide, the context slide, the challenges are great. The financing gap is big, so admittedly, this is a drop in the bucket. But we do hope that with the examples that you'll hear about today, you'll be inspired to try them out and see if you can experiment a little bit more and push the boundaries in the sector, given that we have a lot to achieve by 2030. And so I won't go through this table, but I did just want to say that as you can see here, it's not just private finance we're talking about. We're also looking at grants, efficiency gains, or revenues that a private or public provider gets in terms of increasing their revenues. We count that as resources mobilized. So it's not just commercial finance. It also includes grants and also international concessionary debt from institutions such as the World Bank. Next slide, please. And so where exactly did we work? Well, you will hear from our panelists themselves where we've worked. You will hear from Senegal, Kenya, as well as Cambodia today in terms of mobilizing commercial finance, and Zambia. We'll have speakers from Zambia as well. I did want to note a couple other examples that are noteworthy. So the first one is in South Africa. We've actually we've done municipal credit assessments to help structure the Inca Municipal Development Fund that's valued at around 30 million. They hope to capitalize it at about $100 million or so in the future. And that's to really support infrastructure development in smaller cities and metropolitan areas, which is really a big gap. And it was a small support from us, but really catalytic. And then the second example I wanted to share with you is the work in Uganda with a national water. We supported with credit rating along with really good collaboration with the World Bank, which helped mobilize about 30 million in commercial finance. And I recently just got an email actually from our World Bank friends saying that that's about 40 million with additional loans that they've taken out. It doesn't seem like a lot compared to the big number I shared in the beginning, but to put it in context, this is about a third of the annual investment plan for national water in Uganda. So it's quite significant. Next slide, please. And so before we go to the next slide. So before we go to the panelists, I did just want to flag some of the challenges that you'll hear, just to put them all in one neat table. And it's really just, if you think about it, there's a consistent set of challenges observed across multiple contexts. We're looking at the demand side for the service providers, low credit worthiness, lack of formalization. Out of the 600 or so private water providers in Cambodia, about 50% or so are formal. On the supply side, there's really unfamiliarity with the water sector and hesitancy to lend. We're considered a very risky sector. And some enabling environment issues, regulatory and legal framework not conducive to private sector participation, lack of clarity in sector roles as we see play out in Kenya. And so I hope that you will hear some of these challenges play out and how they've been addressed in this excellent panel of speakers that we have. Next slide, please. And so before I end this little opening, I did just want to share just a little bit about what you'll hear in this session, because I feel like our speakers will be humble in terms of the accomplishments. So if we look at Kenya, it's about 1 million mobilized for a medium public water utility, Mowasco. 70% of the loan has already been repaid, and over 12,000 people accessing clean water. Cambodia, it's 2.2 million raised for a private water operator, over 10,000 households accessing new and improved water. And lastly, Senegal, 1 million in grant, 1.9 million equity financing from an impact investor. So it's quite a lot of results that have been accomplished by these providers in partnership with financial institutions. And so I hope you stay with us and listen to what they have to say. And with that, I will end. Over to you, Alyssa. Thank you so much. And please ask us anything on a Q&A. Happy to engage. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ella. I'll hand it over now to Barbara to have us take a look at the results of our poll. Barbara?
Yeah, thank you so much, Alyssa. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are indeed very happy to have you here with us this afternoon. My name is Barbara Kazimbaya Senkwe, and I'm the Senior WASH Governance Advisor for the WASHFIN activity. For now, I want to just walk with you through some live polling. We would like to get a sense of who is in the room, where are you coming from, and what are some of your thoughts around commercial finance for the water sector. So, Kirsten, may I please have the first question for the live polling? Please do vote. This is similar to Mentimeter for those of us that have worked with that technology, so a very, very similar technology here. Kirsten, please.
Just a moment. We actually launched the poll at the very beginning to ask people's opinion, their background. So we're going to launch it again in just one moment. I'm just restarting it.
Okay, in the interest of time, I can actually see the results that we got for the first question, where we asked you to indicate your background. And what I'm seeing here is, quite interestingly, we've got a large number from the non-governmental organizations, and then followed by implementing partners such as WASHFIN. The development partners, we are here in quite some numbers. Sorry, Kirsten, you moved my answer before I finish. Okay, yeah, so we've got quite a number of development partners, and then other institutions, followed by our financing institutions and our service providers. So it's quite interesting that our financing institutions are very few. I think it speaks to our question, are we talking about an unlikely pair in this sector? The second question, please. Please vote. The question is, commercial finance for water and sanitation is not feasible without credit enhancements. Again, interesting answers coming in. 56% of us think it depends, and I think that's a good answer. It is neither true nor false, although the true is also quite significant in this case, about 32%, but I think most of us feel that it's really a question of what help is being provided there and where are the water service providers. And I think you see a lot of that coming out through our panel discussions. Thank you, Kirsten. The last question. Commercial finance for water and sanitation is not feasible without technical assistance. Could we see some answers, please? Let's get voting. I'm not seeing any answers coming through, Kirsten. All right. There we are. Yeah, commercial finance for water and sanitation is not feasible without technical assistance. And again, similar to the last one, 45% say it depends. And then that is followed by 40%, which people saying it is true. that you cannot do this without technical assistance. So thank you so much. Those are interesting insights, and we'll see how these pan out from our panel discussions. Alyssa, back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Barbara, for reviewing those results, and everyone for submitting your responses. So we'll move now to the first panel discussion, and I will start by introducing our panelists. I'll ask if our panelists in the first panel can go ahead and turn on their video and their microphones. I'll note that two of the speakers have changed from our original invitation, but they represent the same organization. So Duam Kim Lang is the head of liabilities with Philip Bank, Cambodia. Philip Bank is a commercial bank with operations in Cambodia since 2009 and offers a wide range of financial services and products catering to corporate, SME, and retail customers. The bank is a member of Philip Capital Group, which is headquartered in Singapore, established in 1975, and now operates in 17 countries. Kim Long has been working in the banking sector for more than 17 years to support SME, MSME, and retail clients to expand their businesses to grow healthily with sustainable profit. She believes strongly in education and has found it instrumental to her career growth in the banking sector, and has been awarded participation in international programs to study in Taiwan, the US, Japan, Singapore, and Thailand. Next, moving to Ham Sivfang. Sivfang is the general manager of Kampong Chamlong Water Supply, or KWS, a private water operator in Cambodia located in Kandal province in the lowland area of the Upper Mekong. KWS was established in 2003 and serves over 10,000 households with piped water services. Sivfang has a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and has completed training on water safety planning and water utility improvement programming. He spearheaded the digitization of operations at KWS, such as billing, metering, and monitoring. Idrissa Won is a Senior Investment Officer at Investisseurs and Partenaires, or INP. INP is a pioneering impact investment group entirely dedicated to financing and supporting small and medium-sized enterprises and startups in sub-Saharan Africa. Since its creation in 2002, INP has been dedicated to promoting sustainable and profitable small and medium-sized African companies with high local added value. And we have last Madame Lena Tal Phai is the owner and co-founder of Delta, a sanitation services company. She co-founded Delta in 2002, and the company now provides collection and treatment of household fecal sludge, wastewater treatment, and related sanitation and construction services in Senegal. Delta currently serves over 950,000 people in the greater Dakar region. So thank you all for joining, and I'll start with the first question, which is for Sivfang and Madame Phai. In many countries, small to medium scale service providers, such as the private water operators in Cambodia and the sanitation service providers in Senegal, are a critical part of water and sanitation services delivery. You as private owners have invested to achieve this, and you need to make a return on your investments, as any private enterprise does, in order to be sustainable. Could you please share with us why you as business owners see the water and sanitation sector as a good business opportunity? Share a bit on how you have grown and how you will use your commercial finance to continue to grow your businesses. I'll start with Sivfang, if you could share your thoughts, and you have about 3 minutes.
All right, thank you, Alyssa. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sivfang from Cambodia. I'm a general manager at Kampong Chumlong Water Supply, and I'm here to represent for my dad, Mr. Hamgun, the owner of Kampong Chumlong Water Supply. And thank you so much for letting me join this webinar today. So related to the question, I want to tell you a little bit about my business history. exploited by the people living around because of the people themselves they throwing trash into the river every day. But other people in my community and even my family also use that water directly without treatment. My father spent a lot of time to carrying the water from the river for our daily use. And from day to day, our health is getting worse and worse. So he has an idea. If he builds the water treatment plant to produce clean water for own use and also sell to the household in the community, it will be a great business opportunity.
I'm having some trouble hearing Siv Feng's audio. I don't know if others are.
Yeah, he's dropped. He's dropped off.
Okay, actually, yeah, I see that he's left altogether. Why don't we switch to Madame Fai? If you can share your response, and then I can go back to Siv Feng, hopefully when he's able to rejoin. Madame Fai?
Hi, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Tout d'abord, je remercie l'USAID de nous avoir associés à ce webinaire, un important webinaire, pour discuter du secteur de l'eau et de l'assainissement. Salutations, je transmets mes salutations à tous les participants de ce webinaire. Au Sénégal, la couverture en assainissement est très faible, avec près de la moitié des ménages qui n'ont pas accès à des services adéquats d'assainissement. En direction de l'atteinte des objectifs de développement durable en 2030, le gouvernement du Sénégal a décidé, en relation avec ses partenaires, d'accroître les investissements pour régler le problème. Ce qui constitue, pour nous, autres opérateurs privés, dans le secteur, une formidable opportunité de faire des affaires. L'entreprise que je dirige, Delta SA, intervient dans le secteur WASH depuis plus de 20 ans et se positionne en leader dans le sous-secteur de l'assainissement. Ces dernières années, nous avons eu la chance de trouver des partenaires au développement comme la Fondation Bill et Melinda Gates, mais également l'USAID, WashFin, qui nous ont aidés à prendre une nouvelle dimension dans le secteur. L'USAID, par exemple, nous a aidés à avoir un partenaire stratégique dans notre capital et en plus une subvention qui a beaucoup amélioré notre approche de business. Le financement apporté nous a permis d'investir dans le matériel d'exploitation, mais également le renforcement des capacités du personnel et une meilleure prise en compte des dimensions genre et environnement dans nos activités. Ce financement nous aidera aussi à assurer une meilleure couverture du territoire national et une expansion sur le plan régional, sous-régional, comme prévu par le plan stratégique de développement de notre entreprise.
Okay. Can I translate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Good. I just would like to start my address by thanking the USAID for inviting me to this webinar. And I also would like to extend all my greetings to all the participants to the webinar. In Senegal, sanitation coverage is very low, with nearly half of the households not having access to adequate sanitation services. In their efforts towards the achievement of the MDGs by 2030, the government of Senegal has therefore decided, in relation with its partners, to increase investment to address the issue. which is for us, private operators in the sector, a great opportunity to do business. The company that I manage, that is Delta SA, has been operating in the wash sector for 20 years now and is positioned as a leader in the sanitation subsector. In recent years, we have been fortunate to find development partners such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and USAID WashFin, which have helped us take a new dimension in the sector. USAID, for example, has helped us have a strategic partner in our capital, in addition to a grant that has greatly improved our approach to business. The funding has allowed us to invest in operating equipment, but also to build staff capacity and to better integrate gender and environmental dimensions into our operations. This funding will also help us to ensure better coverage of the national territory and an expansion to the sub-regional level as planned in the strategic development plan of our company. That's it.
Thank you so much, Madam Fai and Musa, for that translation. That's great to hear. That I mean, we love to hear that you know, financing leads to service expansions. So thanks for sharing that. So I still don't see that Sifeng has joined again. So I'll move on to the next question and ask Madam Fai, as this is another for you. So we know that you, like others in your area of work, face many challenges, including some related to gaps in the enabling environment. Can you please share with us one feature of the enabling environment in Senegal that has been instrumental to the strength of your business operations? Madame Fai.
Okay, thank you. Dans l'environnement du secteur WASH, au Sénégal, les réformes qui donnent plus de place au secteur privé ont été déterminantes pour renforcer nos activités. Par exemple, le plan stratégique de développement de l'assainissement autonome au Sénégal. Ainsi, de plus en plus, l'État, à travers l'ONAS, fait de la place au privé dans la réalisation des infrastructures publiques. Ce qui est une opportunité pour le secteur privé. L'assainissement également et aussi dans la gestion de ces infrastructures-là. Donc, le gouvernement nous donne l'opportunité de participer dans la gestion de ces infrastructures. Ceci constitue, à n'en pas douter, donc des sources de revenus fiables pour les opérateurs privés comme Delta. Et en plus de l'ONAS, d'autres structures de l'État en charge des inondations et travaux publics constituent également des partenaires qui nous permettent d'avoir des ressources régulières. De même que les partenaires au développement ont beaucoup investi dans le renforcement des capacités des acteurs privés. De manière spécifique, l'USAID a beaucoup appuyé le secteur privé de l'assainissement dans des formations et dans le développement de documents financiers surtout, des business plans, des modèles financiers et aussi dans la recherche de financement adéquat pour nous permettre vraiment de se développer. Merci. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now, within the wash sector in Senegal, the reforms that give more room to the private sector have been instrumental in strengthening our activities. For example, the strategic plan for the development of autonomous sanitation. Thus, more and more, the state, through ONAS, is making room for the private sector in the building of public sanitation infrastructures, but also in the management of those infrastructures. This is undoubtedly a reliable source of income for private operators like Delta. In addition to ONAS, other state structures in charge of floods and public works are also partners that allow us to have regular resources likewise, Development partners also have invested a lot in capacity building for private actors. Specifically, USAID has supported the private sanitation sector in training and in the development of financial documents such as business plans and financial models, and in the search for adequate financing. That's it.
Feng has now been able to rejoin. So I'll direct the next question to him and also see if he can finish up what he was, his response to my first question, just to get a bit more context about KWS. But Feng, so the next question also is that, despite the challenges that gaps in the enabling environment present, we also know that opportunities to increase commercial finance for businesses like yours, we know these opportunities do exist, but that prospective borrowers or investees often struggle to reach and to demonstrate creditworthiness. From your experience, what were the primary challenges that led KWS to work with WashFin to raise financing, and in what ways did WashFin help to address these challenges? Over to you, Sifeng.
Okay, thank you again, Alyssa, and sorry for recognition at my first answer. Okay, so for the next question, despite the challenges that we face, the water supply business in Cambodia still go on and grow, although not growing fast but never shrinking. And currently, there are more banks interested in the water supply sector because they see that this kind of business is less risky than other business. Kampong Chumlong Water Supply also one of the business that continue growing even COVID-19 outbreak and economy downturn. Our customers are growing and the demand of water also increased, so we need more capital to invest. In the previous time, we tried to get loan from the bank, but the challenge is our financial report does not follow what the bank needs. Some of the banks have denied our request, and some of the banks still give us a loan, but with a high interest rate that we cannot afford. But luckily, we were selected to the WashFin program that focuses on financial management. The program helped us to prepare a right financial report, show the bank about our ability to pay back, and also negotiate interest rate with the bank. And as I'm a general manager in Kampong Chumlong Water Supply, I learned a lot from the WashFin program. I know how to do a right financial report, not the best report, but the acceptable report for the bank. I know how to negotiate with the bank. Before the WashFin program, there were only 1 or 2 banks that give us a loan with high interest rate. But now after the WashFin program, we have many banks that are waiting to give us a loan. And the program also provides us with some equipment for the water control quality as well. And I would like to say thank you to the WashFin and USAID that always help our business, but the one who really benefit are the people in my license area. And since they use clean water, their living standard have changed a lot. It become better and better. And once again, thank you everyone here for paying attention to my speaking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sifeng, for sharing that. That's really, really interesting. And yeah, most important is obviously the impact on the community that you serve. So thanks for highlighting that as well. So I'll move now to ask some questions of both of your financing partners, of Kim Lang and Idrissa. So for the water and sanitation sector to mobilize domestic private capital, financing institutions such as yours need to have confidence that your loans will be repaid and that you will make reasonable returns on your investment. For both of you, we'd like to know what convinced you that these small to medium private wash enterprises were viable businesses for you to lend to, in the case of Phillip Bank, or to invest to invest in the case of INP. And so I'll start with Kim Lung, if you can take about 3 minutes for your response. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. And good morning and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kim Lang. I am a head of liability at Philippines. So thank you for the question regarding to how Philippines interested and invest in to support on the water sector, especially to help to the owner to grow their business. First, I would like to share that our government, they regard this sector as a one of priority sector, that they have a clear plan and strategy to support the private water sector owner by giving the license and also welcome to the investor as well as the technical support from overseas such as the WASWIN to help to support on the private sector in terms of the technical and also in terms of the advice and guide them to manage their business with viable and sustainable. And another thing is that the water sector is the main key of the infrastructure that can help Cambodia to attract more investors. Whenever the water accessible, so the investor can invest, and especially to that mean that they can invest and to have the business access to the rural area. And moreover, the water sector is the low risk business that they keep growing from time to time. Whenever the owner expand their business access to the user. Yep. And being the social responsibility and respond to support to the community, Philippines also have their own strategy to grow this sector as well. That's why we have our own program to support on the water sector. And another thing regarding to we are in a part of a financial or banking sector to promote this to the water sector owner to grow their business, also to contribute to the community, to help the people who live in the rural area able to access to get the clean water. Whenever they able to access for the clean water, can help them to use the clean water to support them to sell their time, so they can improve their living standard.
Okay, thank you, Kim Lung. Yeah, some interesting points there about how the sector can actually be considered from your perspective more low risk, and also about the potential knock-on effects of having development in water and sanitation create more potential lending opportunities for your bank. So thanks for sharing that. Idrissa, what interested INP in Delta?
Hello, can you
Hello.
hear me and can you see me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting us, INP, and happy to see that this panel is so diverse. I see people from Cambodia, Ghana, South Sudan, etc. So very happy to share our insight about Delta and what convinced us. First of all, in general, we always look at two things: how viable it is in an economical point and how impactful it is. And sometimes being an impactful company can bring more possibility, more leverage to be viable, and vice versa. So it's completely linked in our strategy. So what interested in Delta was first of all that the business was solid. It was not a greenfield business. The company was active for several years with a very strong and visionary entrepreneur that you already talked to, Madam Faye. It was a pleasure to work with her, just to share this insight. And for us, what can tell that it is viable is the fact that the market is deep. For now, when you go to Senegal or even on a larger scale in West Africa, people lack of basic sanitation and wash, facilities. So that's the first point, and services. Second point, we were talking to a company that was strong and profitable. And aside of the fact that there is impact, just looking at the figures gave us a strong feeling that it was a good thing to accompany this company. And last point was, even if the company was serving a very clear demand, we still had identified very early on some low-hanging fruits. We could help on strengthening the governance, even if the governance was already existing, but we were able to think about different orientation to strengthen the governance with the specific experts, working with them with some technical assistance to give more tools for the company to grow. So we were very, let's say, hopeful that the company was already working well, but with the help of INP, and also it's very important to stress it, USAID, WASHFIN, that helped us leveraging a very significant grant that we could go further, not only in Senegal, but also in the West African.
Thank you so much, Idrissa. And I think, a lot of what you highlighted is really, the essentials of a partnership is, finding a right opportunity for a match and identifying those opportunities for you to help take Delta to the next level. So thanks for sharing. So I have another question for both of you. What do you see as the one or two primary obstacles that governments and private water and sanitation service providers need to address to encourage your greater involvement in providing financing to the WASH sector? So I'll start again with Kim Lang.
Okay, thank you for the second question. What we address for the two main obstacles. First, Cambodia is a developing country, and most of the roads are under construction. So it really affects to the water connection when there is any construction road construct along the water pipe, and sometimes this can lead them have a if the connection is not working well or they are leaking, the business owner got lost and they have got a complaint and they need to reinvest to install the water connection. Another thing is that the private water operator, we just started to have the technical and the standard since 2016. Some business owner they have their water operator treatment long times ago, so the standard is not there. And normally the water sector investment, they last for more than 20 years. However, due to the standard is not there, they need to spend their money to refresh it or to reinstall. So the cost can be double or triple. So the margin of the business water is not much as they expected. And another reason is that if they don't make any profit, they lead them to the passionation is low, so they may not want to invest more. And also the financial sector is not favor to support them to expand their business. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kim Lang. Yeah, I do recall in our programming there were many instances, unfortunately, of lack of coordination between sector authorities who were doing public works programs, yet not realizing that in the process they were accidentally digging up, some of the private water operators' networks, and then, to figure out how to compensate owners afterwards, has been quite difficult in Cambodia. But thanks for those recommendations, and all issues that need to continue to be worked on. And Idrissa, how about from what you've seen in Senegal and elsewhere in the region?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think that there are many issues that can be addressed to ease our ability to invest, because what we want, knowing the impact of the sector, would be to invest very much often in this type of companies, or just have more partnerships. But one of the key issues, if I had to just take two, one of the key issues would be the payments. When you work in this type of sectors, one of your key clients would be the government. The government eventually pays, but sometimes by the time they pay, the company dies. So what can we do? What can we do? Maybe partnerships with the companies, or I don't know, DFIs, or organizations like USAID that can that have deeper pockets, or that are more focused on the private sector, or that are focused with the precise program that can help develop this type of initiatives, and doing some type of PPPs with a very structured way of working, so that the companies that have the expertise can continue delivering excellent work without worrying about paying their paying the salaries and so on and so forth, or just not having issues with their working capital. So that's a major issue. Finding a way to get the companies that are doing outstanding job like Delta to get paid on a timely manner. Second point, I think, is giving an easier way to do business, not only in the country of operation, but also in countries that are next to for instance, if I take the country I know the most is Senegal. Let's imagine having low-hanging fruits in Guinea, or in Mali, or in Cote d'Ivoire. How to do some, I don't know how to do the word in English, but how to have the good type of discussion with the government to make partnership easier between countries. It can go to regulation, to how to talk to the ministries, how to go together with all the players in other countries, so that their voice is louder, so that they can explain that maybe this amount of tax, knowing how important our business and our activity is not suitable, knowing that we are working for the greater good of the country. So this type of thing, in my opinion, is paying the company in a timely manner and helping the companies and the organization throughout the region to work in a better fashion, because they have the potential to go further.
Yeah, thank you so much for those examples. It's quite a predicament that, you, on the one hand, you depend so greatly on those regular revenue streams, but yet when they become irregular, it becomes very difficult for the businesses to deal with. So definitely all of these are good ideas for us to consider, solutions for on under wash bin 2. So thank you, thanks for those. I'd like to finish the first panel here by thanking all, Idrissa, Kim Lang, Madam Phai, and Sid Fang so much for sharing your thoughts with us. I hope you will stay for the Q&A session, because I know I can already see some questions coming in, and I want to encourage the audience to start adding more questions, because I'll be monitoring those now, and I'll be able to pay more attention to that now that I'm going to hand it over to Barbara to lead the next panel. So Barbara, over to you, and thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I confirm, can you hear me, Alyssa?
Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we go into the panel, I wanted to ask Kirsten, are you able to please move Sumbi into the speaker group, please? Sumbi Shimwambwa, she's on the participant list. Please move her into the speaker slot. Hello?
Yes, just one moment. I'm moving.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We are going to move into the second panel discussion, and I'm moving Sumbi into the speaker session because two of our expected participants have not been able to join us. And those of you who are Girl Guides, there's a motto, Girl Guide, be prepared. So we are prepared, both of us here, as former Girl Guides. So thank you, Sumbi, for agreeing to step in at the very, very last minute. In the last panel discussion, Alyssa and the team have really walked us through the experience of the private sector, and private sector both in terms of the service providers. We heard both from Cambodia and Senegal, from our two service providers, and then we also heard from IP and also from the Philip Bank in Cambodia. We're going to continue the conversation and focus now on the public sector, on the public providers. And so we have three panelists, and I'll just ask my panelists to please switch on your videos so that people can see you. David Kamau, please switch on your video. And Noel Kode, please switch on your video. And then Sumbi, if you've been enabled, please switch on your video as well while I'm doing these introductions. So I'll start by introducing David. David Gathogo Kamau is the Managing Director of Mathira Water Sanitation Company Limited in Kenya. Mawasco is a public water service provider in central Kenya with an ambitious capital investment plan to improve and expand its water supply system. David has over 10 years of working experience at senior management level in the water sector. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics and an MBA in project management from Kenyatta University. He is also a certified public accountant and a member of Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, ICPAC. David, you are very welcome this afternoon. Our second panelist is Mr. Noel Kode. He is the sector head for energy and natural resources, corporate and institutional banking at Cooperative Bank of Kenya Limited. The Cooperative Bank of Kenya is the third largest commercial bank in Kenya with an asset base of over 622 billion Kenyan shillings. The bank is fully aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and Noel holds a Bachelor of Arts degree and a Bachelor of Business Administration degree. He is a career corporate banker with over 15 years experience with various commercial banks, both international and regional banks. And the sector he manages covers water, renewable energy, oil and gas, and mining. Noel, we are very welcome to the session this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, and not the least, Sumbi Shimwambwa, whom we have just thrown into the deep end, is our outgoing country team leader for the washfin activity in Zambia. She is an engineer and has been working with us as an infrastructure specialist until she took over as team leader for Zambia. She has worked for Lusaka Water and the Millennium Challenge Corporation, among others. Sumbi, we are very happy to have you this afternoon, and thank you for agreeing to stand in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Right. I have a few questions for each of you, and I'm going to start with David. David, Kenya's water and sanitation sector has most of the relevant ingredients required to raise financing from domestic commercial banks for wash services, including from Cooperative Bank, who are here with us today. You are one of the managing directors of a water service provider that has been able to borrow from a commercial bank in Kenya. From your experience, could you please share with us what the loan was used for, your repayment status, and the two topmost challenges you had to overcome to obtain the loan? And while you're doing that, can you also comment on why you persisted in getting this loan despite the challenges?
Thank you, Barbara, and the team for invitation. And for me, as the MD for Madira Water, Mawasco, I can say that commercial financing has been a game changer, not just for the company, but literally in the water sector. And speaking on the project that we took through commercial financing, which is very fast for the company, and among the very fast in the country. I think we are about the third or so in the country to embrace commercial financing. And we took a project in the year 2019-2020. The project involved the habilitation or renewal of our infrastructure. We realize now in the country, Kenya generally, one of the major challenges that we're having in the water sector is the high non-revenue water losses. And we needed to reduce the losses to be able to, through renewal of the infrastructure, by doing so, we'll be able to extend water coverage to an unserved area. So we joined the program by World Bank, which was run through Water Sector Trust Fund, that institution that's mandated in channeling resources in the water sector, in the Ministry of Water in the country. And the project cost was slightly over $1 million USD. And to start with, we had to have a financial partner. In this case, we finally, after a long struggle, we partnered with the Family Bank of Kenya. I'm saying about long struggle because I also touched on the key challenges that we faced as a company in trying to kickstart this project, because the program, output-based aid program, entailed having a subsidy agreement with WSTF, whereby once we achieve the targets, for us, the target was to implement the project successfully. And at the same time, we achieved the targeted number of connections in a served area, which was about 1,600, and which I can confirm that we were able to achieve. We did implement the project. We need a set timelines. We did have the additional connections set, and we end up enjoying the subsidy, which was 60% of the total cost. That is the principal amount and the interest. Before we could be able to have the subsidy agreement with the WSTF, we really struggled. For one, getting a willing financial partner, that is a commercial bank, to work with us. I think we engaged about 5, and given that commercial financing was a new concept in Kenya, we have been relying more on grants and consumer loans through ministry, but this project are being done by other agencies. That is the water boards and directed by the Ministry of Water. But for us as a utility company, any form of extension or project within our area mostly was through grants. So convincing the banks that we wanted to borrow that kind of money without have any assets, it was not sellable, so to speak. But a long struggle, and of course, the other challenge that we also faced on convincing our county government, because the company is wholly owned by the county government of Nyeri, which is a devolved unit, and for us to be enlisted in the program, we needed to have an objection letter from them, and this was to be based on credit worthiness of the company. This is where Washington came in, and they assisted the company is assessing the credit worthiness of the company. They were able to present the report to our governor, and the project was unlocked, and the rest is history, because able to achieve 100%. I can say that after receiving the subsidy, the loan balance, we are continuing to pay without any default. We are scheduled to pay within 5 years, and currently we have paid the balance, about 40% of the balance. So we are paying 60%. Although if you include now the subsidy, we have paid more than 70% of the total loan. So the reason is why we were persistent on this project, because we knew that those are problems that need to be resolved. That is the losses within the project area, and we were sure that once that is solved, we'll be able to increase the coverage, and of course, revenue that was generated from the additional connections was sufficient, which is the case to repay the loan comfortably. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David, for sharing that. And it's great to hear, particularly about the persistence despite the many challenges you had to encounter. Noel, we heard even from Cambodia that many commercial banks consider the water and sanitation sector as too risky as potential borrowers. What motivated you as Co-op Bank to take the risk with water service providers in Kenya? And could you also share with us your 2 topmost challenges providing loans to the water sector, and then 2 actions you think governments could take to increase your lending appetite to the sector? You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Barbara, for inviting Cooperative Bank in this session. I will start first of all by talk about what motivated Cooperative Bank and the history of Cooperative Bank in financing WASH and the water sector in general. This started, Cooperative Bank was the pioneer and first commercial bank to actually finance water WSPs in the country and WASH programs in the water sector. We did this through a collaboration between us out of the Outputs-based program through the World Bank. And we started out in 2007. That was the first one. We later did one we upscaled in 2010, and then later also upscaled in 2013. Why that is important is that the initial motivation was that we were working with a partner who was able to de-risk the bank's risk appetite. And subsequently, on the second phase, we partnered with USAID under the WASH program also, through the USAID guarantee coverage. This one covered about $9 million. And it also expanded the scope to include water service providers, but also providers and companies within the WASH sector who were able to provide equipment in the sector. Under the OBA program, we were able to disburse about $10 million. to about 7 water service providers. It should be noted that Cooperative Bank banks 98% of the 100-odd water service providers in the country, including several government agencies who are very key into the water sector. So we have an understanding, we have an experience so far as to what challenges this sector is facing. The greatest motivation was the ability also of the bank to have line of sight of the financials, the partnerships that we were able to create with both World Bank and USAID. And also on the third part, there was also the technical assistance that was given to the bank. As a bank, we are experts in finance, but having a partner who was able to give us technical report through the OBA and Washington program was able to give the bank comfort that the technical aspects of the project have been addressed, and that the financial and de-risking aspect of this has also been addressed. On to the second part of the question, where we're asking the two most challenges that we are facing as financial institutions. The first one, of course, is how do you secure yourself as a bank once I give you money? Most water service providers are quasi government institutions, and in any lending, should I give you money as a financier and you refuse to pay, I can fall into a various securities that I'm holding with you. In this instance, if you're a water service provider, there is no way I can be able to either charge successfully or even sell those assets. The other reason is also an aspect of poor policies or that need to be tightened into the water sector. The policies from the government in one way is that to strengthen or to comfort the financial providers, that if I give you money, A, should there be a change in board? B, should there be any change in policy that I will still be able to get my money back? So for the banks, that is very critical and very key. The second risk, of course, is political interference with some of the WSPs in the country, who are basically semi or quasi-government institutions. Yes, they've been delinked from the former Ministry of Water or county governments. That's the way they operate in Kenya. But they still, the government still has a say through the county government. So how are we insulated from any changes that will be taking place? How are we protected legally that it is, if I give you money, what is the assurance that the state will step in and pay back or give some sort level of guarantee for that money that's given? So those are the two utmost challenges that we face as a banking institution. And I think the other two most important points that government could do to impact this sector, the first one would be letters of comfort from the central government to give comfort to institutions. Just the way they do it, it's not nothing new. They also do it for the energy sector in Kenya, where they're able to give letters of comfort. The other issue is more policy. How do you shield financiers from default or political interference once you have given money for these projects? And the second important point is to create proper legal frameworks to shield boards of water service providers from political interference. There's also the issue of, in Kenya, the biggest, and David will confirm, one of the biggest waste or loss of water service providers is something called non-revenue water, where once water comes from the source, there's huge pilferage, there's theft, illegal connections. So how could government step in and deal more firmly with people who are interfering with the water from the abstraction point to the consumer point, and that would really help in boosting revenues of the WSPs.
Thank
We would
you.
also look at how government can give tax exemptions and other exemptions to WASH projects. And this would really spark growth because government has already done this through the affordable housing projects in Kenya.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lo.
Yeah,
thank you. I'm so sorry to rush you, but we need to stay within time. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure we'll come back to those in the discussion. I'm going to firstly introduce Kelvin Chitumbo, who has joined us. Kelvin is the Director of National Water Supply and Sanitation Council, which is the regulator for the water sector in Zambia. NWASCO was established in 1997, and Kelvin is a water regulation expert with more than 15 years of experience in water utility regulation, reform, policy development, restructuring, financing, and services provision. Kelvin holds an MSc degree in strategic management, an MBA from Edinburgh Business School and Heriot-Watt University, and a Bachelor of Engineering degree, Civil Engineering from the University of Zambia. Kelvin, we're very happy that you've been able to join us this afternoon. And I'm going to ask you and Sumbi the same question. So Kelvin, you can give me 2 points, and Sumbi, you can also give me 2 other points on the same question. We have seen how credit enhancements, such as output-based aid subsidies and credit guarantees provided to the commercial banks by USAID have helped water utilities to access commercial loans in Kenya. Similarly, technical assistance programs like WashFin have helped to prepare bankable projects that are acceptable to commercial banks. For both of you, Sumbi as a TA provider and Kelvin as a regulator, why do you think Zambia, which has a similar socio-economic and WASH sector institutions to Kenya, similar to Kenya, why has Zambia not had as much success in enabling commercial borrowing as Kenya has? And what do you think needs to happen to build on the experiences of companies like Lusaka Water to get the sector to fully take advantage of commercial finance? 5 minutes for each of you. Kelvin, you can go first.
Right. Thank you so much, Barbara. I'm sorry for coming in late. Yeah, when I look at the state of the commercial utilities in Zambia, obviously a lot needs to be done to try and create confidence if we have to get commercial loans. And one of the critical areas, obviously, is I think we need to begin to see how we analyze issues of credit worthiness of our utility. Obviously, you can't use the same yardstick we are using in the private. And I think we haven't had that conversation where the commercial lenders understand that there's a way you can look at these utilities so that they give you comfort that when money is lent to them, they are able to pay. But critical also is maybe we need to reform the whole sector in terms of making financial, a flow from the private as part of, improving our service. Because I think traditionally we've relied on cooperating partners and our government. I think we need to restructure ourselves to begin to see that commercial lending can be part of, accessing resources that should be able to assist us improve our service delivery. What that means is that even the regulators should be on the table so that even as you're looking at the issues of tariff, you look at what are the incentives that would allow the utilities to perform better in terms of improving efficiencies, and we target, some of those tariff benefits to, having some impact that is positive and can be, can be clear in terms of where the resources are going. So what I see is one is that we need to remove this perception that utilities cannot get commercial loans, but that means conversation with lenders so that we create something that gives them comfort. But secondly, we should also be targeted in terms of how we allow resources to flow to someone that has put in money. So the regulator becomes critical to ensure that happens. What can we do? One of the critical things that I think we need to do as a country is to maybe design a more sector-specific way of analyzing creditworthiness of these utilities. And obviously, here government becomes critical to come in as a guarantee or guarantor for the resources that coming from the private. They can easily do that because they are interested to see a service provision improvement, and they may not have the resources to put into these utilities. So, but they can come in and back utilities to be able to access utility resources. But corporate governance again becomes critical. So we need to be transparent, and also high level of integrity needs to be seen if we have to encourage or promote private sector finances that are commercial in the sector.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelvin. Sumbi, the same question, your 2 points.
Thank you so much, Barbara. So why the water utilities are struggling to get commercial financing and what can be done about that? So my first point is that the CUs are not proactive in preparing bankable projects. And so they don't readily have documents or projects that they have packaged to go out to these commercial utilities, sit down and have a conversation on how they can access financing. So I think that the CUs need to be proactive, but then also capacity needs to be built within the water service providers on how they can go about preparing bankable projects. So it is or should be a continuous process. The other thing that I note, so this afternoon, it's interesting to hear from Noel speak about non-revenue water, but you'll find that many commercial banks don't seem to fully understand how the wash sector works. And because of that, they tend to be risk averse. And this is also something that has been spoken about on this webinar. But also I'd like to give an example. So you have this water utility that would want maybe to solarize their borehole facilities. The useful life of this borehole could be 20, 25 years, but the terms and the conditions that these commercial banks would give to the water utilities tend not to be so favorable. So there needs to be that engagement again with the commercial banks to help them understand what the financing is required for and how the water utilities would be able to pay. Maybe then lastly, it also speaks to the kind of financing that is available, whether it's corporate financing, investment financing, off the books financing. When you talk about corporate financing, you find that most of the water service providers, in terms of their financial position, they are not exactly strong. And so they need to build their credit worthiness before actually getting them to a position where they are able to access this financing. So there is need to continuously give, again, technical assistance to the water service providers through efficiency improvements. Again, we're speaking about non-revenue water, so increasing billing efficiency, reducing costs, and many other activities that would allow them to improve their financial position. So those are the 3 points that I could give in terms of what can be done to enable the water service providers access commercial financing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sumbi. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Noel and David. And thank you very much, our audience. We are now getting to the part where you can also participate. So please keep typing those questions in the question and answer chat boxes there. Could I ask that all the panelists from this second panel and the first one, could you please come back, put on your videos so that we can answer responses? We will direct them to the relevant individuals that the question is targeting. So all our panelists from Cambodia, from Senegal, Zambia, Kenya, please come back, switch on your cameras so people can see you. Thank you so much. And we're going to start with a question that came in very early, and I'm going to ask Ella to respond to this first question.
Shall we read it for the audience, Barbara?
Yes, I was just trying to find it. Right.
I can read it, and you can help direct questions too. So this first question reads, in these three countries, commercial finance is expensive, and even more so in the WASH sector. All these countries have domestic public development banks, which have both economic and social objectives and are able to attract cheaper domestic finance at favorable conditions. Why not engage with them? So Ella, do you want to start off the discussion?
Sure, that's a great question. I would also love to hear perspectives from other folks in the panel. But in terms of what we think at USAID, definitely we see an important role for national development banks. It's something that we have done before. So for instance, in the Philippines, we worked with the Development Bank of the Philippines, DBP, in terms of setting up and implementing the Philippine Water Revolving Fund. And I'll provide a link to that case study. This was something that we did many years ago where we mobilized over 200 million of financing for the water and sanitation sector. I think definitely under WashFin 2, as we move forward, this is one of our strategies in terms of mobilizing financing. I do want to note just a little bit of a note of caution that national development banks are not a retail bank, right? So the transactions and the projects need to be larger. Financing a small medium enterprise or one utility will not be enough. So we would actually have to work together with other organizations and stakeholders to let's say, aggregate a pipeline of projects for them to fund. Definitely something that we will be looking into because we also agree that there's a lot of potential that we see in this space. We just haven't been able to do it under WashFin, but look out for this space in the coming years under WashFin 2. Would love to hear about the interest rates though from Cambodia, Barbara. I don't know if that's where you're going next.
Yeah, I was going to go to Cambodia and then also ask a follow-on question to both, I think, Noel, maybe, and Kelvin. A related question on where does the money come from. So this question says, could you speak to the difference in approaches needed to raise money from domestic financial institutions versus international development banks? So a similar question, why are we going to these commercial banks and not anybody else? I don't know, Noel or Kelvin, who wants to go first? Kelvin?
I can go first. Now, to just clarify, why people, there are two aspects to this question. Why people usually go for development finance money is basically because A, they give it at a lower interest rate, B, they can give it at a longer tenure. And most of the project finance for WSPs are technically not commercial projects. And that has been highlighted in terms of shorter tenors being given to them, which basically make the projects unviable. However, local commercial banks can still undertake these projects and give money for longer tenures. What we need is that support or that partnership with institutions like USAID or others to enable us also give it at a lower interest rate for a longer tenure. In terms of scope and ability to undertake large-scale projects, I think the commercial banks have the money within themselves. It is now to see how do we deploy this money more efficiently and more targeted to the water service providers. And that is the question. The money is there in the banking system. The important thing now is to answer how do we ensure that we're giving it out at favorable terms, with good favors on not asking for too much security, giving it at lower interest rate, and giving it at longer tenors that are in line with the projects that are being undertaken by these water companies. But the money technically is within the commercial institutions.
Thank you so much. Duong Kim Lang, did you want to comment on this particular question? International money versus commercial bank money, domestic commercial bank money, and also development banks versus commercial banks. What is your view in terms of what is going on in Cambodia?
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, regarding to commercial in Cambodia, give very competitive and flexible of facility to support the water sector. Normally, the development fund offer a lower interest rate but shorter tenure. However, the commercial bank, they can give very flexible facility in terms of overdraft and as well as the term loan with longer tenure, as we are part of the financial or we are part of commercial bank who offer this kind of loan to water sector. So we are well understanding on the investment. They invest big, but the collection is very small, but consistent and growing collection of the money can go to the bank. So we do assessment with their cash flow as well. And another thing, besides we offer the loan to the owner, we also work with their supplier as well. So we also can help to the borrower and also the supplier to support the equipment to the water owner. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So what I'm hearing is the funding fit for purpose? I think that is kind of what drives where somebody is best placed to get the funding they're looking for. Alyssa, do you want to take the next question?
Sure. There's one directed to Sumbi concerning CUs and whether their cash flows or their balance sheets are attractive enough to get commercial finance, seeing that tariffs are low and often do not cover costs. I think that could easily be also answered by our MD in Kenya, Gathongo, as well. Do you want to start?
Is that directed to me, Alyssa? I missed the question. My network was not good.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So there is a question in the chat that's directed to you that concerns CUs, and when their cash flows, basically they're asking, are their cash flows or their balance sheets attractive enough to obtain commercial finance, seeing that tariffs are low and do not cover costs? And so I was thinking you could answer, and then also MD Gathoko.
Okay. So in terms of attractiveness, I would like to speak to an activity that we had undertaken on WashFin 1 in Zambia. We had identified 4 water utilities, and we did some financial activities where we tried to understand their credit worthiness. So basically looking at 6 financial criteria and trying to understand whether they are able to attract financing and also pay it back easily without struggling. And from that, we were able to, the results showed that only one of the 4 water utilities could be termed as being credit worthy. So in that regard, I would say that in terms of percentages, you're looking at that when it comes to commercial water, commercial water utilities. So there is, like I mentioned previously, there is need to support activities specifically to do with efficiency improvements in order to enhance their credit worthiness.
Thank you. And yeah, that is why working with utilities to find those efficiency improvements, that's why that ended up being a large focus of our programming in Zambia. And so perhaps MD Gathogo, you could comment on this as well. You're muted. Sorry, can you unmute? Still muted, I think. Yeah, we can't hear you. Oh, maybe now. Try again.
I didn't get your question.
Okay, I hear your sound now. So basically, the question is asking, are balance sheets of utilities in Zambia or in your case in WSPs in Kenya, are they strong enough to obtain commercial finance?
Yeah, I think to me, if you go purely on what is contained in a balance sheet, maybe might not give a true picture, but you look at the bigger picture in terms of the opportunities that are there. Because for us, like I've shared, is that we're able to demonstrate that it's not just about our balance sheet. It's about what is are able to generate more from what's there, and what's coming out not just in Kenya but even in Zambia is that one of the major challenges that we're having is a high non-living water levels, and it means that this water that we are supplying, but not able to get revenue. So, in short, if you're able to have a proposal that's able to demonstrate that by reducing NRW, we're able to generate more income, which in this case be utilized in repaying the loans. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Barbara, do you want to pick the next question?
Yeah, thank you, Alyssa, and thank you guys. Interesting conversation. There's a question which I would direct to Kelvin since we spared him the last question. Fidelis is asking, what are the necessary policy reforms and/or regulatory frameworks needed in the Zambian market that will enable commercial financing of public and private water utilities? And I'm sure Ella is interested to hear the answer to this question.
Yeah, I think a number of things should happen. One of the critical issues is building capacity within, the utilities to be able to sit on the same table and negotiate. I think that has been a challenge at times when you are dealing with, especially the private funders. But then we've seen some discussions that seems to favor only the people that are putting in money, and then at the end of the day, it doesn't seem to benefit, so to say, the utility. So I think there's need to build capacity within the sector so that people can negotiate at the same level and be able to get a benefit out of these resources. But also important as well in terms of reforming, I think government should begin to see commercial loans as an avenue that can accelerate improvement in terms of service delivery. But also we need to look at mixed credit financing so that we don't just rely on grants and we are happy with that, but we should be able to see how the sector to be able to sustain itself in future. Because as long as you can't pay what is coming in, then it becomes, you're not going to be sustained. So I must say that government also should begin to see the private funding as a source that is critical if we have to move forward. And one of the issues that we've been talking about is, as a sector, we also need to just clean ourselves up and begin to attract, private financing. So we need to look at how far can the private come in and what stake do they hold when they come in. Currently, obviously, we have everything owned by the local authority, but going forward, we're seeing a number of, say, gated communities coming up. Can we allow private sector to come in and work with the utility and have a stake in the company? I think these are some of the reforms that need to happen if we need financing that will have a longer term in terms of repayment period.
Thank you very much, Kelvin, for that interesting conversation there about looking at the private sector beyond them just as financials, like they can actually own a stake here where it makes sense. Building on that, then there's a question for the two banks, for Noel and Joan. How can we reduce the collateral requirement demanded by the commercial banks? So this is not a sector which is particularly big on profit, but it can pay for, for loans. In the case of Kenya, it's quite interesting that so far all the loans that have been taken, as far as we know, there's been no default. And that's because these guys are selling a product every single day. They are making money. What will it take to reduce the collateral requirements from Noel?
Thank you, Barbara. I think there are two approaches here which commercial banks can take. The first one is that we need to come up with a way to tap the cash flows of the WSPs, the water service providers, and we've done this before. And this ties up with the issue of policy around the ability of commercial institutions to have a stake and a way in which to get collections and drive and collect the revenue from this water directly at a policy level once we've given money out. That could be one of the ways to ring fence the collections once we've given facilities. The second bit is to work with institutions like USAID, who are able to give partial guarantees or guarantees to these WSPs. Through coming up with such innovative and hybrid solutions, we are able as a bank to say, okay, the WSP, the water service provider, cannot have the security, but I can rely on a guarantee from a credible institution, and that will enable me to lend out more and to take riskier investment requirements from the water service providers. I think those are two very critical areas in which the bank can come in and actually support and spark growth and investment in the wash sector.
Thank you so much, Noel. Duong, do you want to add to that question? Is it possible to reduce collateral requirements in Cambodia?
Really just want to share with you briefly regarding to financial support from the government sector. Currently, we have the guarantee scheme that it's a part of a government sector that coming into to support the SME as well as the water sector. So they are encouraging the bank to offer the clean loan, like without collateral, to support the SME owner. So the government coming in to support between 70% or 80% of the total loan that we offer to the borrower. Yep. However, there is a fee. There's still fee that commercial bank. We are the commercial bank. We need the to make the profit to keep ourselves alive. So if the guarantor coming in with lower interest, with lower fee, so that can help the bank to offer the loan to the borrower with lower interest rate. Yes, this one factor that government coming in, but we still need more support for them to lower rate and to provide some fund to the bank, commercial bank, because we are commercial bank. We need to get more deposit from our depositor to have fund to lend out. Yes. And another thing regarding to water sector in Cambodia now, as well, and Philippines, we also have a special program for support private operator. So we understand that this kind of business, their station, their treatment plant are outskirts of the country. So the land value is very low, but their investment, their asset is valuable. So Philippines not just get only the collateral. We count into this business, including their asset. So we can offer up to 110% total collateral plus investment asset. I think that Philippines have designed their own program to support this sector.
Thank you so much. Alyssa.
Yeah.
Sorry. Alyssa, over to you.
Thanks, Barbara. So I'll mention there's a couple questions that have come in from Russell in the audience, and he's talking about an idea for a business opportunity for interested parties, potentially in Kenya and Zambia, and so I was just going to highlight that kind of the nature of the businesses that we've been highlighting today. In that, these are well-established businesses. For example, Madame Thai has been operating her business since 2002 and has, a long track record of successful operations. And that's what helped attract INP to become her equity partner, as Idrissa explained earlier. And AWS, also operating since 2003. So again, with a long history of successful service provision and growth of the business, that was able to attract their partner, Philip Bank. So yeah, maybe I don't know if either Noel or Kim Long want to comment quickly on kind of the strength of a business that, or kind of the longevity of a business that you seek to partner with. Is there any minimum of years of operation, or do you how would you address a very new business opportunity?
From a minimum business requirement, we usually require at least 3 years of operations. It's usually important so that we see the profitability and the business viability between the period. We, of course, could look, within the period also we look at balance sheet operations. What is the profitability? And what are the current operations of that particular business? For new businesses which are greenfield and very new, what happens is that shareholder contribution or business partner owner contribution goes from being a minimum of 10% to also almost being a minimum of 60-50%. then we can de-risk the rest of it in terms of now working with other financial instruments, like with our partners in the water sector, and to see how we can build that. But yes, it's possible. We have a wide range of clients who can be interested in partnering. The bank has so many clients in the water sector, not only WSPs, but we also have providers of equipment, providers of technical support, and all these. So there's a wide range of clients who we deal with within the water sector.
Okay, thank you for that. In Kim Long?
Yeah, so let me share regarding to Philippine program. We offer to experienced client or borrower that who have offer license from ministry with a 20-year license. Yes, and another thing we look into their report, like balance sheet and in Cambodia, we have an official report which is shared by the WASPIN. And another thing is like our third-party panel that who is expert on the technical evaluation, and we do the comparison between the report that we got from WASPIN plus our third party who share us this. And especially we have focusing on their project plan. That means after they get the loan from us, what is their projection plan? And another thing, Philippines not just only give the loan and leave them and collect the payment. We follow their business plan and their expansion projection. As an example, so far with our customer that we offer the loan, within 2 years, we add up more loan for them because they are sticking the loan purpose to their projection plan for expansion. And we found that their investment keep increasing and the reach out to their user is increased. Yeah, and they follow their investment plan. Yeah, and let me share with you. Before we just give them just only $500,000. Now the loan going up more than 1 million because of their commitment and their projection plan is go successfully. Yep.
That's great. Thank you both for sharing about that flexibility and yeah, about the potential to grow with your partners. Back to you, Barbara.
Thank you so much.
We
have a few
like 2 minutes. Yeah.
2 minutes, yes. And I just wanted to check whether Madam Fai was still online because I cannot see her, and Idrissa.
Hi, sorry, I just talked to Madam
dropped.
Fai. She dropped here. She dropped a while ago.
And Idrissa, are you still online?
Just dropped, yeah.
He dropped also. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
In that case, I'll ask the last question to Ella. Ella, how does USAID and WASHFIN 2 expect these successes to be scaled so that many service providers may also be able to access finance?
Great question, Barbara. I mean, I think a lot of the work that we need to do, I mean, the work with the banks that at a smaller scale, it's doable, and it's great to see it scaling up already, given these small demonstration examples. But honestly, if we're really thinking about scale, we need to partner more with other development partners, for instance, and government, looking at larger scale programs, so that we're not just talking a couple million or 3 million, that we would be talking about tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, like I mentioned before in the Philippines, in terms of the Philippine Water Revolving Fund. I know Kenya is contemplating some fund like that. I think we really need to think about national scale fund. It's hard to do that without these smaller examples and really testing the waters. And so I think we're now poised under WashFin 2 to respond to that and really think about how to do this at scale. I think the idea about national development banks is one, really working with more financial institutions and using the financial institutions in this call to do that is really important. And I think, frankly, Barbara, I think more education and training, I don't know, someone mentioned it in this call or this panel, because not just for government, but also people that are in the audience, you know, from the different, whether it's civil society or communities. A lot of times people say commercial loans are really much more expensive, but if you really compare it to, I come from the World Bank, so maybe I can say it, but they're not from the bank anymore, work for them. So, and it was a World Banker herself who wrote this a few years ago, that just because a loan from the World Bank has a small or low interest rate doesn't mean that the payment is smaller in the long term, because it's a longer tenor, foreign currency. So because of currency fluctuations, countries and utilities end up paying more. So I think really educating what the different financing options are, looking at the market segmentation that was also mentioned in this panel is very important to scale up this kind of work, and really understanding what kind of financing fits what project and investment, and really working more with government and other development partners at scale, including the big development banks that lend billions of dollars, which USAID does not have, but we hope to be a player in this space moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ella. And let me thank everybody who's been on the panel this afternoon. It's been wonderful. I think we've all learned a thing or two. I'll not try to summarize, but we've heard about the technical assistance. So it goes back to our question from the live poll. PA, absolutely critical. Guarantees and other credit enhancements. I think the commercial banks are telling us they need some of that to be able to partner with us. I think we've heard about the willingness of the private sector to really partner with this sector. And so from WashFin 2, I think we are ready to partner with you all to continue this journey and see if we can meet what Ella is talking about here, the expectation. Can we do this at scale? Because we have shown that we can do it in small bits, but is it feasible for us to do it at scale? And we believe that in partnership with you all, it is possible. So I'll stop there and hand back to Ella so she can give us the final words and send us home this morning or this afternoon or this evening. Ella, back to you.
Great. I thought you were closing us. I really just want to thank the audience for hanging in there. We know it was a long webinar, but really we're thankful for your participation and your questions. And thanks. I really want to thank the panel on behalf of USAID and the WashFin team. It's been great having this discussion with you. I do think that we need more of this. I learned a lot sitting here and listening. I only had to give the opening talk. You had to do a lot of the talking, and it's really been super useful. And we hope that at USAID we can still continue to support you and really go to scale with the work that we've started with you, and do that also in other countries. So thank you for all your ideas and for hanging in there. Very late in Cambodia, even later than it is in India. So special thanks for sitting with us up to now. With that, really hoping for more partnerships in the future under WashFin 2 and the rest of our programs at USAID. Thanks, Barbara and Alyssa. Special thanks for this.
Thank
you so much. And thanks to everyone. Thanks so much to all of our panelists. We really appreciate it and hope it's been a great opportunity for you all as well.
Thank you. And thanks, Katie,
for
managing all of this. Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Katie.
For our speakers, when I close the room, we can still talk in the backstage area. But for everyone else, I'm going to close the room momentarily. Do remember to take our survey, just asking a one question. Let us know what you learned in today's webinar. And thank you again for attending. In the next couple of weeks, we will be sharing a recording and potentially some other materials on the same event page on globalwaters.org where you registered and learned about this event. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.